our own worst enemy, our own biggest roadblocks. How much we have grown, though. That's wonderful.
We have come so far, my dear.
So far.
And this is actually episode 98. Speaking of eight.
Ooh, wonderful. Yay.
You want to just like start it, like a rivet right now?
Let's go.
Okay.
Jump in.
Well,
Dive
here
right
we
in.
are. Welcome. It's episode 98. I'm here with my crazy 8 girl, human vibration. And it's been a little minute. How are you?
It's been a minute, yeah. And we have needed to catch up for a while, and I'm glad we're doing this. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff that we have been talking about that's been fascinating. Like our little, corner of the thought paradigm. A lot of that stuff has been bubbling up lately. The Queen, conversation around the Queen, and I really want to get your thoughts on and the serial killer. I know we'll dive into that later. And it's just like this is so ripe. All the things that we've been fascinated with,
all the principles you and I have been talking about for so
fundamentals.
long. I love that like Lush is becoming a little more mainstream,
Yeah.
and I get a lot of people call me the Queen of Doom in my DMs sometimes.
No.
And they talk about how they get so tired of me saying the word Lush, but like it is what it is. It's everything. It permeates everything.
Yeah. It's what I think is most fascinating about the word too is it's everything. It's a noun, it's a verb. You can use it so many different ways.
It's like fuck.
An adverb. It's like fuck. Yes. Any way you can position that word, it works, and I think that Lush, and recently I taught my mom Lush. Just recently I taught, and she loves it. And she's starting to say it like Lushy, and of course, everything that I do, she's like, that's so Lushy, just quit Lushing yourself. And I'm like, Mom, you're using it exactly as you should. You got it. She's a pro.
I'm so proud of you.
She loves it. She loves it. And then,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They just use it a lot now. It's just like the new word du jour. So it's funny to hear my mom using this word, and she's doing it right. It's like a perfect, when she gets it, and even talking about the headlines and stuff, she's kind of starting to be like, why are they making us worry about COVID again? She's starting to have like this level of, skepticism. And
good for mom.
Yeah, she's kind of connecting it like, that's so Lushy. Those headlines are Lushy. It's like, yes, right. It's all, that's all good. Yes.
We're coming full circle.
Full circle.
It's only taken 30 something years, Mom, but you're finally listening to me.
Right. Exactly. I know. We do, all adults become a parent at some point, like we have, the relationship just flips. The relationship flips around at some point in our lives. Yeah.
I asked this on Twitter and I think on my stories. So like if you and I agree on what Lush is there like some sort of level above? Like I saw the hurricane.
Yeah.
And like there has to be energy within that hurricane. Like obviously the hurricane itself creates Lush and like the emotional toll that happens thereafter. But like the hurricane itself, does something harness that energy? That's what I kept thinking about every time I saw this.
Oh, that's a good question. We obviously are subject to extreme weather events. Everybody knows that, and everybody has experienced that in some form or fashion. It can be really traumatic. These events themselves are real, and these, we're not questioning whether these storms themselves, whether they're having impact or not. But the question, because it's like, no, everything's fake, but that's not true. That's not even what we're saying. That's not even a place that we start at the discussion at. What we're talking about here with like the energy, does our energy, does that go somewhere? Does that power something? I sometimes wonder how much we influence the weather systems, how much our collective energy powers this place, this realm. And all storms are energetic representations of elemental systems. Everything requires power. All these storms require power, and it's kind of funny, and not funny, but interesting when you realize, how much in like these storm systems taking this, like pulling this salt water, have you seen those images where like the water is just pulled out, like you can just see like 2 miles into and it's just gone. It's almost like it's just been sucked away. And what is so interesting about that salt water is it's ionic, it's like really powerful. The salt itself is like a battery. These salt cell batteries are what ion batteries power every Tesla, every electric car battery is essentially based on the same fundamental elemental salts that can be mined from the ocean. They're actually starting to do that, where they're mining from salt water from the ocean to use in these ion batteries. Anyway, so it's like these storms literally are being powered by extreme energetic properties in the water itself, but also I wonder how much our energy gets wrapped up into that as well. I don't know. I do think that we influence the weather in some way more than we know. Maybe we have to believe in it. Like that's what forecasts are so brilliant at achieving, is getting us to be aware of it and to anticipate.
To prep for the rain.
Yeah.
Manifest the rain.
Anticipation of a certain thing and acceptance of a, I mean, that's kind of Truman Show of it all, you know, like, I just do wonder, I mean, gosh, we're having like this the question is if this place is like a real place, but what if it's like a Kristoff situation where there's someone just like powering the wind machine and powering the rain machine and powering the.
Exactly. And I guess if anyone hasn't listened to us before, maybe this is the first time you've ever seen us, you should go back. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but there's a number of them. But you and I have had some like fantastic conversations about the wind and like the wind being sentient and like Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And when we went out to Colorado and we were talking about like the trees being alive and how you can like go on this hike in Colorado and it's just like a systematic, trees are down, but like, you know that it wasn't man done. Like, no, so we have all these great episodes. You should definitely go back and listen to those because the thoughts on the wind are really good. But yes, I totally agree with you. You can have this whole conversation on whether or not Mother Nature is sentient and punishing us in some way. And then you can also have the same conversation of the man behind the green curtain and him pulling all the things.
The levers, yeah.
And then in addition to that, I think I'm always thinking of Loosh in this Harry Potter context of some sort of like Dementor up in the sky, like siphoning it. But I rewatched The Matrix last week, which is always just interesting for me to do again, as my lens changes all the time. Yeah. But the moment when he's like pulling the thing out of his neck and he like wakes up in the real world for the first time and he's in that cocoon womb thing and it's those stacks and towers of them and there are those machines then that are siphoning the energy. And so then I think, okay, maybe I'm being way too basic with this, and like as if something's happening in this simulation, maybe the emotion is coming off like Neo in that way, and it's collected on like that end, if you will.
Yeah, like there's a level between the actual harvest. This is just like a projected reality, but the real reality is us in a goo bath.
Right,
and
exactly.
Then that is that goo bath that we're not really experiencing. It's like a level removed, you know, from our experience to what's actually happening. Gosh, I mean, and then the goo conversation, the black goo is something that's such a trope, not a trope, but it's something we keep seeing symbolically. We keep seeing this in a lot of news stories, and even petroleum. This goes to conversation we've had many times too. What is this stuff in the ground? Is it really this finite resource from dinosaurs, fossil fuels? No, it's not.
How did we believe that narrative for so long?
They need us to. They absolutely need
us
to believe. All the
oil world that we're fighting over is because of dinosaurs. Like,
oh my God.
What? It's just so silly.
And if you say it right, like it's fossil fuels, like fossil fuels. I don't know. Like it's always there.
There's a play on everything, but that's all the intentional part of it, I think. You just said something about trope, which reminded me of something I think I saw you say maybe on your Instagram stories about how they're just using the same stories and the same tropes over and over again.
Yes.
Have you seen that one video? I've seen it on TikTok, I think. That talks how I think there's maybe only like really 26 stories in the entire world. Mm-hmm. That everything is essentially based on these like 26 tropes.
Yes, I think so. And I think that we see that through, if you were to dissect every Hollywood film that's ever been given any sort of accolade, if you dissect even just the catalog of Disney, so you can start with Disney. That's canon. That's your encyclopedia of social commentary from above, you know. Disney's it's kind of like everything's kind of brought to you by Disney.
50, 60, 70,
really,
80, 90
exactly.
years.
As long as this magical medium has really existed. Disney's had its hand in it, in this movie magic. I don't know. It's just, it's interesting. What do you think? I don't know. What's your
I
gut
don't
tell
know, the
you?
writers seem to get lazy.
The
I
laziness of it.
do agree that it seems to be that there are these like basic core stories. And then you even see, I think I've shared it, you've probably shared it in the past. There's a side by side of the Jungle Book and Winnie the Pooh. And
Yeah.
these two particular scenes, it's exactly the same scene, like the cartoon animation in the background.
I'm glad you brought it there, because that really shows the scripted nature. In script, not as in just written words on a page, as in like dialogue in a screenplay. It's scripted as in an automatically executing line of computer code. This is so
Exactly.
perfect and precise. So I'm really glad that was your kind of like way back point in this discussion, because that exactness, and Disney, and that was Disney animation, and what we've been told is this imagineering and this magical process of Disney, and what they did, the beautiful trick of Disney, and I can't say that I know exactly how it's all done, but the beautiful trick of Disney is they would just have artists create a few slides, a few sketches, and from those few sketches, Disney magic would occur in an entire moving, rich, illustrious, almost like what Dali can do today, almost like what we're being shown. If we can just input it something out, what can come out, and give it like instruction, like a screenplay, written words on a page, turning into something beautiful on screen. Very, just words into reality. I think that these technologies are like revealing themselves over and over and over again, and it's something rendered. It's something automatic, computer precise. This is not, I don't think, necessarily a human hand. I think this is something that is.
No, I totally agree with you. I think
AI.
Something that you said there, I was actually planning, I wrote down, I was going to say before you said, so I'm really glad that you said it. You were like, I can't even begin to fathom or explain what you were about to say. And I was actually having this conversation with Cheney the other day. We were talking about things that we think distinguish people like you and me, people like her and you, the three of us, from perhaps like other people within this realm. And I was saying that, like, I find, like, I don't know anything. I don't know that I'm ever going to know anything. I don't know that there's really anything like an objective truth whatsoever. And I'm content in knowing that I might not know anything ever.
Right.
And so you were saying something like that. And I appreciate when we're like on that same page in that way. But everything to me is just so fucking perfect. Like
Precision.
the synchronicity,
yes,
the precision,
clockwork.
It's clockwork to,
and like they have to use the
to
symbols,
a billionth degree.
And the dates between that fucking gets me. When the queen dies 911 days, 9/11 after Corona was announced, and Corona like meaning crown. Perfect. Yes. Corona means crown, and they just gotta get at these with these numbers, and they just can't stop with this shit.
So that execution to me is artificial intelligence, is
scripted,
like the AI of the AI that we cannot even possibly fathom exist is like putting that all together. So we're talking about 26 tropes, and you're talking about kind of inputting into that basic thing that they created. I almost feel like it's kind of like that. Like we're giving this AI some sort of basic execution, and it's creating this
goes to the templates discussion too. Yes. This is right back to the 26 stories, and within those stories, there's only a few types of characters that are expressed within the stories, and so you kind of get this like fractal tree, but it's not that grand or large. It's just big enough to where all the inputs can be customized to where the viewer doesn't realize that it's all just the same stuff. Like the reconfigurations are just good enough to fool whoever's watching it, that they don't see the actual original kernel in there. They see it as a new thing, even though these stories are replicated over and over. And so like within the stories, that you have like your heroes and your villains, and you have these magical kind of guru guides, and when you think about Star Wars, even the whole universe of Star Wars, that's the hero's journey to a T. It follows such a basic storyline. This goes kind of into, if you look at how every modern religion, every world religion currently
It's the same trope.
it's the same story. You've got the Messiah figure. You've got it's the same story retold, repackaged, but the fingerprints are all there. I don't know.
I mean, the devil is in the details, and the details
Yes.
change for every particular trope, but it's got
Yeah.
that same
They share this. They're like all woven together.
faith-based, you'll never see me.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not going to go into it that more. It doesn't matter. But something that you were saying right then about templates and like a kernel.
Mhm.
I always go into this discussion, and I know I've had it with you before, that like I can't wrap my head around when we see the like actors that all look the same.
Yeah.
First off, I feel like obviously social media and the connection, like we're all able to like point the finger at all the same actors now. Whereas like in the beginning, they were putting in the input into the template. It was releasing a kernel of a new actor that fit into one of these tropes they're eventually going to become a participant in. But now we can say, oh, look, Jamie Lee, what is her name? Jamie Foxx and Margot Robbie and all these blonde ones that
Oh
look
yeah,
the same.
yes, but they all have exactly the same face. But that really makes me wonder, because they all look like Barbie. But it makes me wonder how much of that is Hollywood doing its magic with specifically hiring people within. Let's say they've got like 7 faces that they've got to fill. They just really hire all just people that all kind of meet these facial criterias, and that's really all they're looking for. Maybe we're not really hip to how they self-select with who gets famous and who doesn't get famous. Maybe it has really a lot more to do with physiognometry, like of the face.
Well, because I always wonder, is it
else.
nature, is it nurture? Like
Right.
in the sense, like, did Tyler pick you from the very beginning to be an actor in this script, or whomever bad actor is the architect putting these people in? So like, did they know from the very beginning, like, Margot Robbie is going to be this actor and she's going to look like this and she's going to do all these different things? And so like season 3 of Westworld, the simulation pushes her in the way that she needs to go through every
Yeah.
decision that she makes in order to become that place. Or like you're saying, do they just say, here's our blonde trope, our blonde character, excuse me, we need to find somebody that like fits this exact profile?
I think somehow the artificial nature of the machine works its way into super organic expressions where we believe we are the ones making the decisions. We believe we are the ones choosing with certain preferences and making decisions. Like what we understand as free will is actually this highly
Free will
intelligent. It's something that we just can't grasp. Like we're kind of coming onto this with how we can think about something and then all of a sudden it's in our ads, or we have like a very brief conversations, or we're like, did I even say that out loud? I don't even think I said that out loud. We're starting to have these occurrences where the machine is reading. It seems to be reading our every thought, and
in real time.
In real time. I know. And so I don't know. I think we're seeing this crazy revelation of how this place, of how advanced it is now. But I think it's always kind of been, we've had this conversation too of when did this technology start? When did all this like hyper advanced technology start? Why are we seeing what are the AI that can generate identities through what we understand as like templates and feed us a lot with these maybe potentially false victims? And I feel like that kind of gets into this AI discussion with faces and stuff. But that goes into this conversation of like, when did that start? And I think that's been around for a really, really, really long time. As long as, I don't think deep history goes back that far. Again, 1700.
Ooh, yes, these are my favorite conversations.
1718. Like 1776 may just be the absolute farthest back I could possibly allow myself to think of what organic life is in this iteration.
Even that,
but who knows? Even
if
that
it goes that back. Yeah, exactly.
I don't even. That's as far as I'm willing to concede. Anything past that, no way.
It's too outrageous.
I think that we're in this grand experiment, and like we just kind of showed up, and all the great wonders that we can't explain that were done in the in the 1400s or done in the BCs, and we're just like, how did they do that? Wow. And the pyramids, like, how did they do that? And it's like, This is so easily explained if we just realize that every bit of what we understand as advanced technology has always existed. We're just like, we just showed up, and like what we understand as human time is just a historical story, just a stage production story, and we showed up in it, and we just accept that this deep history, and that goes back to the conversation we had earlier. They need us to believe in deep history, dinosaurs. That's why fossil fuels are so interconnected
evolution,
evolution, yeah, deep, and thousands of years in the past, and thousands of years in the future, millions, billions of years if we're talking about the universe. But then it's like space is fake too, guys. So
right. Okay, I'm going to give a little bit of context. If you've never heard us talk before, we have a theory that if Westworld, like the world is essentially Westworld, and that life doesn't really go back before the 1800s, that we just kind of keep like reality starts over in the 1800s, and that everything behind that is fictitious in nature and written for us. One of the reasons why we can't reproduce the architecture of the Romans or the Greeks or all these different things. So this is a theory that HV and I like to talk about sometimes, if you've never heard it before.
Yeah, we kicked this around big time in our episode where we were in Colorado, because that felt and you've always had a fascination greatly with the state and national park system. There's a lot of that really is the Wild West.
God, those are some good episodes too, you guys. We went out to Colorado together, and everything felt so fucking fake.
Storybook. It was like a Disney, like nature's Disney park, Yosemite Sam, you know.
We were out in this national park, just like having this moment together, and we just kept waiting for this like cowboy, this like Indian to like, you know, come up on the hill and like take us for, you know, it's just like so.
I still see it. I still see it in my mind. We heard him clapping. We heard the whole. We imagined this so many times, but we kind of saw.
We gotta play it another.
We gotta play that again.
Oh man, we had even to conversations out there. Like, you guys will probably think we're ridiculous, but it made so much sense at the time. Just like looking sometimes at the mountains, like our hotel was back against this like mountain wall, and we were just like, could we knock on it? Would it be hollow?
It looked very false. What got me too was when we would go into through the tunnels, and all of a sudden you'd be in an entirely different topography. You'd be an entirely different landscape. Everything in the tunnel was only maybe a minute driving through, but
a couple tenths of a mile.
We went from like the suburban urban sprawl of, you know, Denver and the outskirts, down, you know, through a mountain tunnel, and all of a sudden we were in an entirely new world, like almost Christmas Village style, Narnia. Kind of
we parked
like
the car, and then we walked half a mile, and it was snow.
Yeah, that was
just
fun.
Like there, perfectly waiting for us,
just on the edge. Like you're off the snow, and then all of a sudden here's the snowy forest, and you're like, this is weird. Like
I took like 2 steps and it went down to my thigh.
Yeah, that was fun. But yes, that was you've I mean, that's one of the reasons we visited that spot too, is it was so close to, it was Golden Gate, right? Golden Gate Park.
Near
in Golden, near Golden, and it was called Golden Gate, I think, which was interesting because Golden is just a gold, or the gates, I think. Oh, and that was at the time when Bill Gates, there was all these conversations about Gates, and he had just announced his divorce, and anyway, just weird timing with the names and things. It just felt very surreal. So that was fun. Good episode.
That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I recently saw, and I thought it was just so apropos, we announced that we were going to do this together, and I think the next day M&M's came out with its purple M&M.
Yes.
That's when I look at Tyler up in the sky, and I'm just like, do you do this for me at HV?
Purple's having a moment.
So if somebody has just met you, they have no idea about what the line of purples means.
Mm-hmm.
And you were to give them like a nutshell explanation, what would that be?
A primer on purples.
And then what would be a good episode to hear the whole thing from you?
Oh, okay. Yes. I'll think about that as I get this together. Okay. Well, I started noticing an abundance of a specific color, hot pink. I started noticing that color in July of 2020, around the time that there was a lot of riots with the George Floyd. It was at a time when things were really kicking up on the news. Like the world was on fire. It was just absolutely on fire. And I just noticed this hot pink was a color just everywhere, and just recognizing it in that context, seeing it in abundance within that specific context seemed to unlock something within my my brain, and I started seeing this magenta color everywhere, especially in these as these really crazy news articles were unfolding around this narrative that was, I mean, the world was seemingly on fire at that time. The riots were out of control. And at the same time, I've been doing quite a bit of research as HV, and I started going through a lot of the things that I had researched, and I started noticing this hyper pink color. And I realized, like, the John Bonet, that's something been a big fascination of mine, and a lot of her like most striking photography is using this magenta color. JFK, Jackie, the day that the head exploded, she was wearing this specific magenta color. So the magenta color kept coming back up, presenting itself to me like this color's everywhere, and it's usually in these wild, traumatic events. What's going on? And so
Very Lucy events.
Lucy, yeah, it seemed to be like hype, at a time, a signal almost for a very, very, very Lucy situation to be unfolding. And I just kept recognizing it. And in my background, I have a lot of like color theory, understanding, working knowledge. I work in digital arts. I work in video and graphics and some 3D, and it just kind of gave me this understanding of how lights and color work together. And I knew already that there was something special about the color magenta. And magenta is technically a shade of purple. It's almost like the hyper purple. It's the center of purples. It's the most purple when the mixing of like your bluest of blues and your reddest of reds, when you mix those together, wrap those around from the visible light spectrum, you get shades of purple. And in the very, very center of that is magenta. And when you're dealing with like LED computers and lights and stuff, it's when the red and blue lights fire at once and the green light does not fire. So you can also think of it as like red and blue minus green equals this hot magenta color. But what's fascinating about the color is it does not exist. It does not exist in the visible light spectrum, and it's only created when this phenomena in our eyes, that's allowed by these cones we have in our eyes, blue, red, and green cones, when the blue and red in our eyes are able to absorb this unnatural pairing of lights that are never supposed to be together, but they shine together through these digital systems and through light-based systems. In photography, we can mix these colors, and in film, we can get these colors. And there's something really powerful that happens when you mix the opposite ends of the visible light spectrum, the blue and the red, and firing those together. It's polarity. It's getting this peak polarization opposites of the visible light spectrum. Like Roy, if we think about Roy G. Biv.
I was just about to say that for someone who like, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I forgot about. I sometimes I forget with these explanations. Yeah, so the red is on one side of the visible light spectrum. Blue is on the complete opposite. And people say, well, violet's purple. And actually, violet's not purple. Violet is the deepest blue. Violet is like the color of the deep blue ocean. And so you can only get purple really when you wrap that visible light spectrum around itself, firing and connecting these two opposite ends at the same time, overlapping them. And when that happens, when the red from one side and the blue from the other side, when those wrap together, you get this energetic experience, this boundary called the line of purples, but the very center of that is magenta. And it's something that it's a phenomenon experienced really only as human beings. It's like, well, what about that pink flower? What about that purple? I see purple in nature. What about that? And I see pink, I pink roses. And that's true, but not every human experiences purple and pink. A lot of people with color blindness, their brain specifically does not do that, or their brain does not allow for that phenomenon to take place. Same, many animals, I think all animals except for human beings, we're the only ones with those dual firing red and blue rods in our eyes. And we need this brain, this kind of schematics that our biology is set up. It's almost like set up to be, it's an optical illusion that actually takes place in the human mind. We're set up for this illusion to take place, for this illusion to be overridden. So there's something that actually happens powerfully when we are presented with the color purple, which at the very center of that is pink. And I think that that's a reason that we see it in a lot of these. I think a lot of these events, my opinion is they're manufactured. They're completely fabricated. They themselves are these illusions. They are these almost optical illusions. And ultimately, purple, pink, magenta being the center of that, purple is an optical illusion. And so whenever we see it in news articles, I think that it's an indication that what we're being presented is an illusion.
It's that, use the word signal.
It's
and
a
I wrote
signal.
that down. It's a signal.
I think so. It's a tell. It's a tell. You know, Jackie wearing that hot pink suit to the assassination, I don't think that that was and that was a custom made piece.
It was probably a Chanel suit, right?
It was made to look like a Chanel suit, but it was actually made in Washington. It was made by the Secret Service. It was like made, specially made. It has an interesting story. That suit has an interesting story, but it was made to appear. And they made this big to do as if she bought it in Dallas, or she bought it while she was shopping, and they made it seem like there's this whole story about it anyway. But it was actually like a custom made in Washington piece that she wore, which makes it even more. Anyway, so that's if you start going looking back in history, you will begin to see this specific color inserted in a lot of these events. You will see
the whole line of purples, really. And so that was ultimately, I've asked you this question before, but I wanted to ask you again. If purple is a signal, if a color within the line of purples is a signal, and I think my answer is probably both, but to you, is it a signal from like the elite, whomever they are, the architects, whomever's writing this script? Are they like, all right, she's going to wear a purple dress today? And they're like, they're in on it because they're putting it out that way. And maybe it means something energetically. And maybe, I don't know, they do it intentionally. Right. Or does it come from like the sim? You know, like is the sim showing us, trying to wake us up in a way, flag us by showing us the signal, or is it kind of both?
I love that. I do think ultimately whatever is in charge of giving us this visual material, I think ultimately the goal is for us to wake up. So to that portion of the question, yes, I think that we are supposed to see this. And is it their purpose? So is it there purposefully? Yes. And what's the ultimate purpose? I believe the ultimate purpose is one day we will be awakened to all these waypoints that have been planted. We just have been blind to them. All these little symbols and signals that we are there, existing, ready for us to see. If we can just one day open our eyes to see it. Because I didn't see the purples. I call them the purples, but I didn't see this color. I didn't make note of this color. But once I did, I saw it everywhere, and it seemed to really correlate with things that I was questioning, the validity, the fidelity, the authenticity, the truth of these elements. And I would, it's almost be like a signal. I found out that the Twin Towers had purple carpeting in the lobby.
Oh, really? That's fascinating.
Isn't it? Mm-hmm. Purple carpet.
So that, like that to me is set from Tyler. Illusion. That's from the AI to me, like that purple. You know what I mean?
Something is making these decisions that we believe are decisions made by someone else in the organization. We assume these decisions are being made by people. But I think sometimes a lot of times these details, especially with big projects, details just get inserted and decided. Even like, how does NASA even operate? NASA operates is because everybody believes they're working on genuine material. They're just receiving data, and they do tests on the data, and then they just never question where the data is coming from, or they just do what they do what they do. They do their job. They get numbers, they test the numbers, and then they send the numbers on. And
there's nobody that can like question them.
No,
it's such a qualified branch of quote unquote science that it's not.
Did you see them clapping like maniacs when the CGI fail of?
Oh God, let's talk about asteroid. That.
Okay, everybody was.
You haven't seen this? Go to my profile. It's in the videos. The dart, if you just want to Google it. But my question was, I'm watching this. Are they trying to purport to us that there's some sort of camera on this nuclear warhead that is destined for this asteroid, and it's to make us believe that A, that that's possible, but B, that they had the bandwidth for something in space to be recording in real time and transmitting data to Earth in real time, and then that being transmitted to us on video in real time in correlation with that team of people that were watching it in real time, all sent to me on my cell phone. The same type of thing that would the same type of person that would believe that we had the ability to have a landline phone call to the moon back in whenever the fuck that was.
Nixon's phone call, his little green phone, that little phone. Was it a red phone? I think it was a green phone. But anyway, it was he just.
Did you make it okay?
Yeah, how's
All right,
I mean, God, that was just so silly. And I can barely get a call out when I'm standing in like a very specific spot of my apartment. You know, it's so funny. And when we go back, you know, I think that people are like, is it always fake? You know, if it's fake, has it always been fake? Yes, it's always been. Like the moon landing of yesteryear was wholly unreal, just like it's going to be wholly unreal when they finally go up there again, which and that's a whole other conversation. I don't think the moon's a physical body. We've talked about this before. You know, whatever they tell us it is, it ain't, and they're not going there. And they didn't go there then. You know, I think it's such a fascinating conversation. That goes, okay, so they want us believing far back in dinosaurs. So dinosaurs solidify the deep time. They want us looking far out, that's space. So space solidifies this deep distance, you know. So we've got the time distance, we've got the physical location distance, and
well, because space also, like,
you don't want us looking here and now.
Narrative, the dinosaur narrative of the asteroid hitting the Earth, you know what I mean? That's all. They need you to believe in all of that at the same time in order for it to work.
And we're still finding these little dinosaur bones.
You know that they've never found a full skeleton ever?
Ever. Yep. And where are all the people bones? You know, we're finding dinosaur bones right and left from billions and gazillions of years ago, but like, where are our ancestors?
We only find people bones in murder cases.
I know.
You know?
Right.
Speaking of murder.
Oh.
Dun, 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 dun,
dun, dun, dun.
I'm really sick of the cannibalism trope.
Ooh, yes. Right.
It's everywhere.
What was your first did I watch what?
Did you watch Fresh?
Okay. But what was your first intro to cannibalism, like as a kid? Mine was like some Disney shows where the cartoons where they had like people with bones through their noses, you remember? And they were like on islands and they had skulls and stuff, and it was just casual cannibalism.
Well, I think
nods.
Most definitely Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom would have been one of our first.
That was scary.
Entries into cannibalism, which would be both the eating of the monkey brains when they were first there, but then also the whole
skulls
ritual of it, of like the pulling out, having the ability to just stick your hand and pull the heart out, and like putting them into the fire, and almost there being that connection to the idea of like an inner earth and like the lava and the crust and the coal, you know. Yeah. But definitely Indiana Jones. What else? I don't know. There's always been we've always known that there are tribes somewhere.
Yeah.
That eat.
And what was it? The Donner Party? I remember learning about them, and apparently they were, you know, I'm going to get this wrong, but apparently they were hiking. They were doing this extreme hike together, and things went south weather-wise, and they had to survive. They ended up having to eat each other, basically.
Okay, and that's actually the kind of arc that I wanted to take our conversation.
The Donner Party, not Dahmer, but Donner Party, but still, it's very close to Dahmer, who was also a cannibal.
I was about to say, I thought you were making a Dahmer reference at first.
Was it the Donner Party? Okay, the Donner Party.
Well, while you're looking at
up, the Donner Party.
I just think there's been such an interesting arc. First, like for me,
How
they've been
interesting.
introducing vampires to us, obviously, for a very long time.
Yeah.
But especially since the early 90s with the Anne Rice books. My mom was obsessed with Anne Rice. So I fucking heard about vampires all the time. We watched
Interview with a Vampire.
Interview with a Vampire. And then that's, I feel like, kind of been a part of this cannibalistic thing where you're
Mhm.
becoming more and more softly disclosed, as predictive programming. Like eventually you lead down to Twilight where you want Edward Cullen to choose you. You want to be
Right. Yeah.
Sookie and True Blood. You want these vampires feeding
Right.
off of you because they've made it this like sexual, euphoric type of thing, while simultaneously doing things like the Santa Clarita Diet, and then taking cannibalism from what I think was more of like a dark and sinister trope, like that kind of arc where we saw it. And now it's become more of this like survival thing. And now they're taking it and they're showing us people who enjoy it, like Dahmer and this whole thing that's coming out on Netflix, and like the Santa Clarita Diet. If you ever watched that, would you really more?
And Army Hammer.
And
The
yes,
celebrities.
and now they're tying the sexualness with it with Army Hammer and that whole thing that
Yeah.
came out, I guess what, within the last 2 years. I followed House of Habitat for a long time. She was one of the people that said that he wanted to like take a piece of her skin and like fillet it and like keep it, like these are the texts that he was
Yeah, the
he
texts
wanted to, like,
supposedly
keep
are
it-
wild, wild, wild.
keep it in his pocket all day so he could like think of her. But I find they are making cannibalism PC.
Yeah. You were right on the run up. The run up to this moment where cannibalism is somehow being normalized, the run up was Twilight. The run up was Anne Rice. The run up was the vampire stuff. Weirdly, it has to be. Like there has to be like this ladder of toxicity of like this ladder, you know, where we don't realize, like just like a boiling frog analogy where, you know, you just raise the temperature slowly and you don't realize.
And they're making it sexual. Like think about True
Yes,
Blood.
and it's like you
being
realize
Sookie.
with a vampire you're gonna die. Like you're
Like
you're gonna might not be trapped in this vampire. Like this isn't gonna end well. You realize this.
Right, like
this.
Sookie
Yeah.
has like fairy blood, and so she's more desirable, and like that makes you want to be somebody with more desirable blood, as if like to get picked, and then
Mhm.
they sexualize it and they make you want to be a vampire with Edward Cullen and Twilight.
Robert
You know?
Pattinson is
And
oh
if
my
you've ever
God.
watched I read all the books back then because
I read some of the
I could read
books
that
and
stuff
I
in like
watched
a
some
couple
of those
hours.
movies. Yeah.
And the movies are so bad.
They're so bad. And
Oh
like
my
actually if you go back and watch those movies, their faces look CGI'd on like crazy.
Yeah,
Kind of what
they
we're
don't even look
seeing.
like they're real people.
Oh, this goes to the Bruce Willis selling his digital
Yes,
identity.
yes.
Goes right into that. That technology, guys, I think that's what I was trying to really allude to earlier, but I wasn't really getting there. But I think that technology where this facial overlay stuff that we're understanding with Snapchat filters and you know, the puppy dog ears and the you know, that's just the rudimentary basics of it. But I think that what that actually alludes to is the ability to totally overlay an entire identity. It's not just like an element of the face, a new eyelashes or something. It's an entirely new identity. And all you need is a base. You just need a base that's close enough and you can just.
Well, it goes back to that kind of core
think that always
discussion on
existed.
animation. And if
Yeah.
you've ever watched somebody animate something, I think from the back end, you know, it's very simple, and like the kind of
Like the
lines that are
wireframe,
used,
the
the
sketching.
wireframe
Yep,
and the
exactly.
sketching.
Mhm.
And so if you've got that base wireframe, I mean, you
Mhm.
can lay anything on it. If we believe in the theory that, you know, they've got technology that's hundreds of years advanced and they're just letting
Yeah.
us see this now, I think the Bruce Willis discussion is just another peeling back layer of now getting us to accept something
Yeah.
that they've been doing for some time.
Right. They're yeah.
Because people
We
be
did
like, well,
this. Yeah.
I love Bruce Willis. So like I'm okay that he sold his digital self. But then I actually saw yesterday, because I wrote a post on this, that his team came out and said that that's not true.
What? It's being
And I thought
reported
that was
everywhere.
an even
That's
crazier
that is
part of the
crazy.
story.
That is crazy. Because that's being
There's-
reported by quote unquote official outlets, you know, like
Yeah, I think the company's
Forbes.
called like Deep Cake.
Deep Cake, yeah.
So So I thought that was even wilder if it
Hmm.
wasn't true. And they're now like, what a story to like be talking about
There's a
selling your
lot of
digital
that
appropriateness.
too,
And
though.
then
There's a lot of that too right now. I feel like at the top of my Twitter news every day, it's like this didn't happen. It seems like it did happen, but it actually didn't. You know, there it's
we
like
reported on this yesterday.
yeah,
That's
we may
actually
have said it did
completely
happen.
fucking fake.
Exactly. I don't know. So it doesn't really surprise me that with that it was the news is falling apart. I love that breaking news is the most truthful headline ever. Like it is breaking and it's broken. They should say broken news. You know, it's like, oh my God.
Now, I would like to hear your theory because I've seen you posting a little bit about this in the like Jeffrey Dahmer of it all.
Yes.
Is
Serial
Jeffrey
killers in general.
Dahmer is Jeffrey Dahmer real?
I question any of these characters that are put on this pedestal, you know, always, always reprojected through history. We can't ever put these individuals to bed. Like their stories can't ever go to bed. And I think that there is something about these. I think that all serial killers are fabrication. All these infamous serial killers that that are heralded to celebrity status. Like if you were to Google the top, you know, top serial killers, you're going to get a punch list of about 15 to 20 individuals. And I would wager that none of them are legit. The stories are fabricated. The characters are just that. And I don't know why they ultimately do this, but I think that it has some serious effects and creates some real ripple effects downriver. I think it's kind of like a poisoning of the well. If they can just introduce this poison falseness, but it's the stories are so rich and robust and we believe it. And so if we believe it, it might as well be true. And then we visualize all these gross details. They poison the well of the public consciousness. And then I think that gets absorbed essentially. And I think that the copycat people, I think that there's like some real negative things that could happen from these individual stories. But yeah, and I wonder, you know, like death row, I really wonder if anybody really
Does
ever
death
gets
row exist?
I really question it deeply. I think that I don't know. I think that it doesn't. I don't think we do that. And I think all the divided conversation about it is more just polarization and luge. And it doesn't even happen. But yeah, we fight about it. You know, we fight about it and we have it. It separates people on political horizons and polarization again. And that kind of goes back to the red and the blue and the purple, political red, political
All
blue.
loosh.
All loosh, the polarization, mixing of the two opposite ends of the spectrum, red and blue. Again, shown through politics, the mixing of that is powerful. There's something powerful that happens when you polarize people on subjects, and I think serial killers. Why would they make it up? Well, I believe they make it up. Why? And I think that it keeps us locked into a prison of fear. You know, there's really only two ways to keep a control over a
You
population.
need the state at that point to protect
Yes, to protect. Yeah, you need a name. And it makes us want to be protected.
you. Fear your neighbor.
Yeah. And okay, so there's a couple of things about Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, so one of the biggest details that jumped out at me, I think there's a lot of wink stuff, a lot of stuff that makes me realize that these are characters and these stories are kind of like jokey, but they don't, like the public isn't just bright enough to catch on to it. One of the first things was that he had this predilection for strapping young Black men. That was his MO. He was after, all of his victims were homosexual men from the African American community specifically. He was targeting that in a very specific body type, this muscular, lean, fit. He had a type. He had a template. Hashtag template. He was going for it. Part of his, that was his desire. That was his want, was this, you know, this very specific archetype of individual. And he also worked, a part of his story was that he worked at a chocolate factory. So
I didn't know that.
yeah, that's a big part of his story.
Dahmer.
He worked at okay, so this is another part of the story. So he worked at a chocolate factory called Ambrosia, Milwaukee Ambrosia Chocolate Factory. And, you know, that connects to his it's kind of a wink, kind of his liking of Black males. but also the word ambrosia, that actually etymologically speaking, that breaks down to the word for immortality. It for forever life, Latin for living forever, and its upper root signaling immortality, which is interesting because one of the things that he did, Jeffrey Dahmer, one of the things in the story of Jeffrey Dahmer was he was obsessed with learning how to permanently preserve body parts. He was obsessed with the chemistry of preservation, of immortality, like preserving, not just keeping it, not just keeping it for a couple. He wanted to figure out how to save a hand, how to save a head in a mixture of formaldehyde. Like he was chemistry tinkering with this stuff. That was a big part of the story that didn't really get. But what's interesting is that he also worked at a chocolate factory named Immortality, and he was like fighting for this preservation of, I don't know, these little layers of the story kind of run together. I don't know. There's something about it. There's
In
something
that,
about
like,
that detail.
simulation way.
Yes.
The way
Oh, and back to Westworld, he went to a high school. I looked at like his little details and stuff. He went to a high school called Reverie High School.
oh, shut the fuck up.
Reverie High School, and well, it's spelled Rever with an RE, so it's Revere High School. But when I saw that, I immediately thought of the reverie as in to be, like I'm lost in one's thoughts, like the memories, the memory holes of Westworld reveries.
And
Yeah.
remember how he says like the reveries are what made them so perfect, like those little nuanced
What made them
things.
seem real.
Right.
The reverie is what made them seem real. These little details, these, and I think that that's a big part. Like there's the story of Jeffrey Dahmer is more of a reporting on this character study. Everything is, it's just the detail. It's just these building and building and building and building and building of these,
Well, you
characters.
kind of start to, like, the more that you learn about him, it's like it's trying to make you accept it in a way, like, oh, okay, well, because his father showed him roadkill and he dissected roadkill.
Yeah, and
He
collected bones and stuff. That was a big part of
collected
his
bones.
younger
I can't remember
story.
what the type of the philia is called that he was into, but
Necrophilia is dead people.
well, no, he was definitely into necrophilia. But the
Oh, yeah.
last episode of Dahmer that I watched, he was getting turned on by like the wetness of the organs.
Oh boy.
He was talking to a therapist, and so the therapist was saying it's this type of philia, and the therapist was saying, like, you think you're homosexual, but really, like, this is turning you on because biologically, like, these organs look wet, like a woman getting wet, and like this is your primal reaction to this. But at the end of the day, like, obviously this is the first time I've ever heard of that typing, like, fucking philia. But like, does there have to, like, do we really have an explanation like for every single type of thing like that? There are people that are turned on by like the wet lookingness of an organ once it's been removed for a body in like a homicide type situation. Like,
or do they?
Why are we even naming that?
Right.
How is there really more than a handful of people out? Like, I don't know.
These details, again, it's hyper poisoning. It's gross. This grossness is assaulting our brain.
Like that seems like a seed.
It's the Pizzagate stuff. It goes back to, because I was really deep. I say this many times. I was really deep into the details of Pizzagate. I believed every discovery that I was making. Hashtag save the children. I really believe every email.
It's the perfect.
I really believe that.
Never-ending rabbit hole.
And those details are sick, gross, nasty. And I was imagining this stuff in my mind.
Because you're like, these little how glimmers. Could it happen? How could anyone be like this?
In any little sliver that I was given, any little direction I could go in. I mean, I just made, I imagine, even looking at those like security footages, from Epstein Island and stuff, just imagining, zooming in and imagining all
buckets,
the buckets, and God, we're the ones doing the legwork on making those leaps.
This is meme magic, you guys. Like, this is the Keck magic of the frog. And I'm not going to go into the whole discussion, but I mean, it's inception. They're incepting ideas into our brains, and then because this is a holographic universe, because this is a video game and I can imagine whatever the fuck I want, the more I think about it, the more it's going to exist. And that's what I think about sometimes with this cannibalism stuff and like naming this like typophilia. Like
Yeah.
there are going to be people out there that are now turned on by the wetness of, like, I need to stop saying wetness of organs because I don't know what it's like. There are
Your
people
audience
that
is like, that's us.
never needed to hear that in their whole existence. But I don't know. I watched Dahmer and I'm like, are people really that impressionable? You know, that like that
I
you
think
could
we're
I don't
just
know.
not supposed to see that stuff. Like, you know, it makes me seem like Pollyanna or whatever. But I think that kind of there's some bad juju that's being transmitted into this world, into it being transmuted through us energetically when we're subjected to certain imagery and themes and words and just energy from the screen and acting out of these just really inhuman, horrific behaviors, the worst of the worst, like boiling of body parts and stuff. And I don't think that that happens on the level that the Hollywood would allow us to believe, would make us
Right?
believe.
Like, where's the new serial killer?
Right.
Have we heard? I don't know that we've heard of any in a great deal of time.
And okay, this is something I want to bring up about serial killers as well. Like their victims, Jeffrey Dahmer specifically, this was happening just as the height of the AIDS scare was kind of
Oh, yes. And the crack cocaine,
going.
like this was
Right.
all about like that's
Right.
the you said that
These were
earlier
the
and I wanted to bring this
forgotten
up. Like,
yeah.
of course it would be gay black men
Right.
during this time because
Shame.
it was the perfect
Police wouldn't care.
right. And it goes along with the narrative so quickly or so
Right.
perfectly. And I would
But
just say
also
that like,
nobody would know these victims either. Like they don't have like these robust, rich stories. Nobody would know them. And so if this whole thing is fictitious and fabricated, it's so much easier to fabricate a few downtrodden homosexual black boys in the late 70s and 80s and give them a few,
you don't have to give them
pictures.
a big story.
They don't need, nobody's going to ask any questions. Nobody's going to ask any questions about,
And that's
Lamone
just the
or,
way that it was, unfortunately, at that time.
yeah.
And it's also the way that they want us to believe that it was at that time too, that it perfects this narrative more and
Something
more.
that's interesting about the story too is that like private companies were the ones who came in. Like once this was all come to light, once it finally came to light that he had like bodies in his apartment, it was a private company that came in and like cleaned house. Which I
Right?
think
So who paid for that?
it was like it's private contractors from they didn't specify. I mean, I bet someone could really go deep into that, but I found it I think that there's something kind of like pre-planned and like that kind of goes, maybe there was really nothing to be found. It was just theater sets and they needed this like private contractor to handle the special material just because they don't want real folks actually handling it and saying that these drums of what's supposed to be dead bodies are empty and it's just all for
They're
show.
just the same type of fake dinosaur bones that they put
Right.
in the
But what you do get is great
museums.
photography of these big drums being coming out of this apartment with guys in hazmat suits. It's very dramatic photography of like this discovery. But when when you find out these little details or these intermediaries, it's not actually the fire department. It was a private contractor that was hired just for this cleanup crew. And I don't know. And I think
It's very much like The Game. You know that
yeah.
movie, The
Oh,
Game?
yes. Kirk Douglas, right?
No, Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas. That's right. That's right. And
It's one of my favorites.
it's a great one. Falls through that glass. Oh, there's something about falling. Oh my
But that's
gosh.
like that same type of like private company like, ABC cleanup would come in and like
Yes.
quickly clean it up and be out of there and you would be none the
Right.
wiser.
You would be none the wiser. Reminds me of like the John Bonet crime scene. I don't think anybody actually saw a body there. I think that it was just this big thing of theatrics under a sheet, under a blanket, like a rag doll or something under a blanket. And then this private, they got whisked away later by
the staging company came in and cleaned it all up.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know this about my girl, but she's got a fantastic theory on John Benet Ramsey.
Love that little girl. Love that little
fake
pageant.
little girl.
love that fake little beauty queen. Yeah. She saved me. She's my Messiah figure. She's my Messiah character for sure. She absolved me. Yeah.
I experienced this tonight and I don't exactly know what to call it, but are you ever like walking and you see like electricity starts blinking around you? You ever experienced that?
Yeah, I've experienced that a few times in my life where it seems like my presence causes a little zoop of some sort. Yeah,
One
every
of the
once in a while.
lights tonight was just like blinking like this at
Interesting.
me when I was walking. Okay.
What do
Let's
you think that
see.
is? Do you think that's our electromagnetic? Because we really are. We're, woo-woo stuff aside, energy, emotions, energy,
People just
loosh,
need
all that
to
stuff
like
aside.
accept that woo woo is real. And we need to
Woo is so real, and we are energy beings. We're batteries. We're battery systems. We take in electrolytes to power our water salt cell battery system. It's crazy how much we are. We really are everything. Our cardiovascular system, all of it. Our endocrine system, all of it is to we take in calories. It's all just units of energy, and we burn we're just energetic. We're like little furnaces. And I think that there's an energy out. I think part of that it's loose, collectively, but I think that we can influence. We can walk into a room and energetically influence the other uh, energy beings, inanimate or
and just in like an
organic
I
or
think it's
not,
just
like
an
light bulbs.
observation
Yeah,
way. It's the
yeah,
way that you observe energy now. Like
yeah.
I think I go into a room and I'm like, oh, before I'm woke or whatever you want to call this,
Mhm.
vibrating higher, you might be like, things feel weird, things feel off. And you might think about it or try to
Right.
explain it later. And now you walk into a room and you're like, oh, no, I can feel it. And this is real. And
Hmm.
now I'm going to leave.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. We all have words for this. Like, I don't like his vibe. She's got a, I don't. He's got a bad vibe. We've talked in this way
We
for a
talk
long
around
time.
it,
We talk
around the
around
woo
it.
woo.
Yeah, we talk around the woo woo. But everybody knows that feeling. If you're at a party and someone walks into the room who's a real downer, the whole tenor, the whole energetic expression of the room can be brought down by a single individual. The reverse is also true. If there's someone who is just this ebullient, joyful, buoyant person, just happy, just exuding, certain energy, that can be very contagious as well. Laughter can be contagious. These emotional states, and I think laughter, they say it's the best medicine. I think that something really magical does happen when you share true moments of humor, of joy and laughter. I think there's something kind of magic happens. And that's kind of, if you think about sending energy out, what would be the thing? I guess like coughing and laughing are two the both ends of the spectrum. Yeah.
Now, this is a question that came in from a member of the class.
Oh.
You have been, I think, very outspoken in your, what's my word? Assessment that perhaps the vaccine is not real and it's saline and it's just this kind of other psyop.
Right.
We don't know what's going on. So in that hypothetical, and really in any hypothetical you want to call it, like, what do you think is the outcome for the vaxxed? Like, do you think
Right.
like any of the death that we're seeing, like the cardiovascular stuff, like, do you blame that on something else and they're blaming it now on the vaccine because you think the vaccine's fake? Or what are your thoughts?
I think that everything that we're being shown now, is given two sides. We're given two sides again, for the polarization, the sheer polarization of it all. So you can either be pro-vax and believe it's therapeutic and beneficial and necessary. That seems to be one side. Or you can be on the other side where you believe that the exact opposite of all of those things, that it's harmful. It's not just therapeutic, but it's like a lethal intoxicant and toxin with nefarious purposes, potentially chip, all these mRNA sort of things, and that, it's totally unnecessary. But nowhere in there is kind of this null point where you can see it as something different. Like it seemed like that was our only really place to land on, and they were opposite ends of the spectrum, like extremes, and they would pit people against each other because it would just generate fear too. Because people weren't just saying, "Nah, I don't need it." I'm healthy. I have a good immune system. Why would I don't need it. It was either that you believed in it or you didn't believe in it. You were
It
for it
was
or
only
against it.
conspiracy.
It was
Like that was the
conspiracy or
only
not conspiracy.
right.
The only reason not to take it is because you were conspiracy minded. There was no just middle ground
No
consensus. Okay.
objective
No
discussion.
objective discussion. And that's ultimately the dream, is to never have any middle ground, never a place to land. But I think, I've questioned, well, I questioned Corona itself, what this phenomena was. Was it a new virus, a new viral threat? Well, at the time, I was beginning to question everything that we've been, subjected to, as far as like fear-based programming, and viruses were kind of high on that list. HIV, which we kind of just talked about, that was the fear of that virus, has spurred so many different episodes of trauma, psychological programming. Viruses themselves, there's a question of, if you believe in germ theory or terrain theory, there's a burgeoning community of people that question whether viruses even exist. And I'm on that mindset. I don't believe in viral threat. And because I don't believe in viral threat, I was beginning to disbelieve in a savior, in the pharmaceutical savior element. If we don't have a real threat, we don't need a real savior. And so what if the savior, the remedy of the day, these vaccines, what if they're not really solving a real problem, what are they doing? And I was like, well, we know that they're all based on saline. A saline solution is like the delivery system of every vaccine that's ever been developed, is a saline based injection. And I was like, what if that's it? What if that's the extent of it? What if they don't actually ever mix it? What if there's no mixing done? Or what if what they do mix it in, what they're told is the magic potion is just more saline, and nobody's the wiser. And that's been going for all time, because it will make for like a theatrical element of what we need to believe that there's a savior and we can participate in it and we can get it. And it also just reinforces that there's something to be protected from. And it just hits on every level.
It's that same like Inception thing too. Like, if I can put this in you and you think that there's a problem, you'll manifest a solution, and you'll manifest that it worked for you. And even if I tell you now
think
that
you
there are
need it,
side
the job's been
effects-
done.
Right, exactly.
Right. Even if you think you need it, the work's already been done. And then once you get it, thinking you've been done good job, and they'll pat you on the back a million times for that. Good job. But at any moment, they can turn that screw. They can just twist that knife, and all they have to do is do a whisper of something going wrong, a whisper of like, oh, we've got reports of da 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 da, and everyone's gonna go, I got that shot, but I feel fine. Do I feel fine? I don't know. I've been kind of having some stress lately, and it's like our lives are kind of crazy and stressful and gross, and so I feel like for a certain subset of people who are already like immunocompromised for so many reasons, and they having and getting a shot is no joke. You can actually, the flu-like symptoms that come from getting a shot, people are like, oh, well, I got the jab and I felt it. Yeah, it spurs your immune system. Getting any sort of injury to the skin, needle injury to the skin, is the first step in getting that spike protein. It starts with the needle going into the skin. That's where this whole immuno response gets spurred from, regardless of what you put in or what don't put in. I used to think that there was like aborted fetuses and metals and formaldehyde, and God knows. I used to think all those stuff were in every vaccine. No, I don't. I don't take the vaccines myself because I don't need them. No matter what the narrative is, I don't need that, and I don't believe in it. And that's the reason I don't take it. But I also don't believe if I was forced a gun to my head and I had to take one, I don't think anything bad would happen. I don't think that
I like that.
Goes
back to like certain types of paradoxes. I think that like for example, do you use a fluoride based toothbrush or toothpaste?
I oscillate. Sometimes I buy Tom's fluoride free, and sometimes I buy Tom's, or sometimes I have a new one with baking soda, and it kicks the hell out of my mouth, but I love it. I think it has fluoride in it, but anyway, I go back and forth.
There's some video I post from time to time that talks about like, yes, like could fluoride be calcifying your pineal gland? Sure. But like, if I also tell myself this isn't going to do that, then it's not going to do that as well.
That's where I'm at on that one. Yeah. But I also was on the boat where I really believed that we were being poisoned by our water into non-thinking zombies. And I'm like, at a certain point I had to go, well, I've got a pretty discerning and questioning mind, and I've drank water my entire life, really straight from the
Right.
tap, you know. What is this fluoride really doing? You know, and then when you
Like
know,
if my pineal gland is still calcified, like,
right.
shoot, what does it look
I know.
like?
And yeah, maybe they do have it in water, but I don't think that it's enough to really do anything negative. But I think it's enough to plant a seed in our mind that maybe something negative is taking place. And then, you know, these there's this little township near me called Highland Park, and it's where all the very wealthy families live. And they actually, this mom argued and got their water treatment plant and their city water plant to stop putting fluoride in. And that just, it was it was easy fix for this particular city because they have their own privatized water system, so there was an easy fix for them to do. But it also just kind of bolstered the conspiracy theory minds that like this woman fought the good fight and she got it changed, when in reality nothing's really changing. Like they're just maybe,
do we really think it's different? It's like the same people that believe like the
it,
three
up
things that are like
here,
the
up
trash,
here, up
the
here. I
recycle.
know it all
that
goes to
are-
the same place,
that
y'all.
They're all
Oh
going to the
my
same place.
God.
y'all.
And it's pretty
Recycling isn't
magical. The
real.
landfill's pretty magical what it does. It's like bye-bye. It's like magic bye-bye place for trash. You know, you bury it and then it's gone. And it turns into this methane and it stinks to high heaven, but
Probably
it's
turns into black goo.
money.
Probably
It probably turns into
black
black goo, but that black goo turns into gold because yeah, it's a cash cow. These city, all of our waste is cash. All of our waste is cash cow. And then they tax us back for, oh God.
Yeah. Ugh. I teeter on the edge of like, okay, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Do you think that the vaccine will be used as like a scapegoat then?
Yes, I
for
think it's
other
always
type
going to
of
be
issues?
used to be, I think it's going to be continued, the conversation about myocarditis, which is, myocarditis sounds so scary, but it's just such a common thing. It's just a swelling, it's a common swelling of the heart. It can happen after you eat a McDonald's hamburger. You know, if you just eat a little too much salt, you can get myocarditis. Again, saline, you know, vaccine, saline, a little extra salt in your system, swelling
Goes
of
back
certain
to the
joints.
salt in the water you were talking about, as it relates to the ocean and
Salt
being
is
batteries.
one of my, yeah, salt is one of my things. Salt is, and salt is, talk about, it's destructive as well. You know, they talk, and okay, so one of the things is like, you're not supposed to put salt in a wound. Like that's adding insult to injury, is to put salt in a wound. And what if they, if the vaccine is, it's saline going into the injury, they're literally putting salt in a wound, which
and
is supposed to be
probably
bad.
whatever injury you have inside yourself at that time.
Inside and up here. And like we've talked before, like dis-ease in the mind causes disease in the body. And so, we're
Yeah,
already
the
in
holographic
states of,
universe, baby. If you're sick, if you want to be sick in the video game, you're going to keep being sick in the video game.
yeah.
Which leads me to like, in that Bill Gates discussion, I'm of the opinion, first off, I don't think that there are really 8 billion people on the earth. And if there are, I
Right.
don't think that all of them are real.
Right.
But if Gates, if the architects, if the rulers of the world wanted 7/8 of the population to be gone in that narrative, then I think they would be gone already.
Yes. Yes. If they wanted us dead, we'd be dead.
Yeah.
For sure.
So like the whole vaccine discussion, it's a great political
Same thing with
tool.
nukes. Same thing with nuclear arms. Like we'd all be dead by now, guys, if they really had this. If they really had this at the capability,
Because wouldn't they all just say fuck it? I mean, and nuke if China really had it, if Russia really had it, if Iran, if Iraq, if any of these places are real,
we'd be, yeah, these territories that are just kind of built up over time, propped up just to serve their purpose one day. I think that's what Ukraine essentially is and has been, is like this territory that over time it's always been kind of this debilitated hinterland. And
North Korea.
just like North Korea,
North Korea's got to be like a fucking movie set.
It's a movie set. They told us that in that Seth Rogen movie, The Puppets, with the interview that got like banned, and because it made fun of Kim Jong-un, or just the whole thing. Oh, remember when Kim Jong-un's brother got formaldehyded in an airport, where they they smeared this like thing on his, like these two girls they assassinated him in an airport by smearing this thing on his face, and he died like at the airport.
No,
One of the
no
sons
idea.
the brother of Kim.
Well, that whole narrative about him, like
gosh.
he's been dead, he wasn't dead, he died
Yeah.
again, he came back, his sister's in charge. Like,
Yeah.
I love
Everything out of that city state is false.
There's some I saw a meme once that was just like talking about his fit, like
his
those huge
haircut.
wide leg pants.
Yeah,
he
his
wears.
pant. Like nobody wears. It's kind of Trump-like though in the dress, in the statuesqueness, and like the shape of the.
Like this is how I know we live in a simulation that
Uh,
Kim Jong exists and was best friends with fucking Dennis Rodman, like as
oh,
like an ambassador,
yes.
like a United States ambassador to North Korea. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Like
That was such a weird
what a
chapter
fucking world.
when Dennis Rodman was legitimately discussing
Besties. Like how is
like
that like violating the Logan Act essentially?
very interesting. He was like he was an invitee of the state, and like I don't know.
No, he really. I make that
Very
as a
strange.
joke. He really wasn't an
He really
invitee. He should have been the United States ambassador to
he should
North
have
Korea.
been.
He was
Yeah.
just bestie, probably fucking Kim Jong.
That was such a weird friendship. They became legitimate friends, and he was having these deep it's like, do we really want him repping the US
But like, what
so
a part
weird.
of the story.
I know.
Like, and one that just
The celebrity ambassador,
everyone kind of
essentially.
accepted. Like, oh, Kim Jong and old Dennis Rodman.
They were like two peas in a pod. There needed to be some like sitcom, some three camera.
Yeah, how did no one ever capitalized on that?
Yeah.
The communist and
Remember when
the
he wore a
NBA
wedding
players.
dress? Oh, he was kind of an original pioneer in this trans
movement.
Yeah, I forgot about that. He wore a wedding dress to his right. He wore a women's wedding dress to Carmen Electra. Yeah. What a
because he took the idea of he opened that trans box, but then he took the idea of cross-dressing and still remaining very masculine.
Very masculine element of it, yeah.
Whereas like Bruce Jenner took it, I think, in like a very feminine way.
A literal. Yeah, I turned. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting thing about like the dead naming conversation, which I don't really hear that. I don't really think it's even like
naming.
Have you heard of that? Like something called dead naming, where when someone transitions and you call them, like if you were to call Bruce Jenner,
Mm-hmm.
that is calling them that's considered dead naming and shameful. Like you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to ever refer to this individual as anything other than their new name, identity name. It can get tricky. Especially if you're talking. It's called dead. It's called dead naming. Dead naming. And it's supposed to be the next like strikeable offense, cancelable offense when you when you dead name someone. It's supposed to be like a disrespectful thing. But it's like, how do you talk in the Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner conversation? How do you talk about the triathlete element of it all? Like whose name do you use when you're using historical? Right. After or no.
BT before transition, after transition.
Yeah.
But has he even cut his dick off?
Oh, good question. I'm not sure. And what's interesting is he has a female girlfriend. He became a woman and now has a female I don't know.
It's like, then are you a lesbian or you're a woman with a dick but that's not heterosexual tendencies at that time.
It's a riddle wrapped in a enigma, wrapped in a puzzle. It's this, I don't know if I'll ever unravel that one. Yeah. But we're at this time, there's this weird blending. There's society's, all these pillars that we've been told are like this and that, like the black and the white, and like A and B and 1 and 2, 0 and 1, all these things that we've been told that are only two categories and this and that. There's this weird blending now of all. It's abnormal. It's like crazy space, liminal spaces.
I find, everything to me kind of boils back down to like the two-party system trope. Even though it's not necessarily red versus blue all the time, it's still the polarity, like the thing we've been talking about, two systems pitted against each other in some sort of discussion, whether that's like race or sex or like whatever you want to be. So they've created all these little glass houses for us, and they've told us for so long, like, don't ever speak about money or politics or religion. And so we all like polarized ourselves into our little boxes. And then all of a sudden they came in within the last 10 years and they broke all the fucking boxes and was like, all of it exists, but you know what I mean? Like,
You're
We're
right.
not going to educate you on all of this. We're going to break everything you ever believed in. And if you say
Right.
the wrong word, you're done.
You're out. Yeah, exactly. Like all those things that you've been taught and told your entire life, those are out the window, and you have to get with the program
And there's a
so
new
quick.
book,
There's a new
and
book.
I'm not going to give you the handbook.
You just gotta need to
But
know
if
it.
you don't
Yeah.
know it, you're in trouble.
There will be a quiz.
Right.
There will
There
be-
will be a quiz every day for
will
the
be a
rest of
quiz.
your life.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so as it relates to dead naming, I don't really fucking care.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
if
I'm
that
glad.
happens to me, then like,
I'm
I've
glad.
been canceled before at all.
Yeah, names are interesting anyway. I'm not good with names. I'm not good with people's names. Um, there's like the facial blindness. I have kind of a name blind. I can remember things about I'll remember your dog's allergic to saffron or whatever. But
You
I
could
sometimes I
literally
have a
introduce
hard
yourself
time.
and I will forget it 2 seconds later.
I have a hard time with that. But I know that says that way more about like my connectedness with the moment and truly being aware and present and cognizant of that of the moment itself, because sometimes my brain is just all over the place when I'm especially if I'm in a social setting and a party, and I'm way too in my head sometimes. And where's that chatter, like the loud chatter in your head, it's really impossible to really listen to especially with a name thing, because like it doesn't mean anything,
Especially because most
your
people are
green sweater guy,
NPCs, you know?
Yeah. What'd you say?
Most people are NPCs and I just don't give a fuck.
Right. I know. Oh gosh. And like the small talk, just the weather. Oh yeah, beautiful day today.
I was home recently at like a neighborhood party at my mom's, and I was just like talking to these old people, and I can't, like, how do I get out of here?
My mom's neighbors are everybody in that neighborhood's an NPC, including my mom. I've included everybody. She's in there too. Just like God, and they just have the same conversations over and over and over. It's like, you guys, we talked about this last time. Do you guys talk about this every time?
Every time,
Yeah.
and the same like stories about
Yeah.
memories.
Oh yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like I love a little gossip, but like, ooh, gossip is so looshy too.
Right. And neighborhood gossip and these HOAs, and there's fights and infighting, and it's just like, oh my God, life is just set up to be these little tales of, yeah, these fabulous little soap operas that play out on the individual level, for everybody. It's kind of fascinating.
I think if we got to just, live the way that life was supposed to, and outside of all these matrices and psyops out in the forest, you would never know about serial killers or necrophilia or I don't know.
We'd never be at risk of experiencing it either if we weren't fed these. I think that for it to I think it exists on like the 0.0001% of the population actually gets affected by these horrific nobody would choose this way of living. Nobody would like willingly, I think, make these like, you have to be really deeply disturbed, troubled, broken individual to go down this type of road. And I think it happens on like such a rare level. But Hollywood just makes it seem like it is very common. Like it makes it seem like we should be worried that
it's
weirdo,
such an acute possibility.
that weird guy could be a serial killer. We even would like say that he gives me serial killer vibes or something like that. You kind of make it seem like that is on the table, like that's in the cards. Do you think it's a serial killer? I feel like that I don't think.
But you know what I like, for me, in the perfect synchronicity of it all, you and I talk about Pizzagate, Hillary Clinton, adrenochrome. I think that's a never-ending rabbit hole. I don't know that any of that's real. I feel like sometimes it's there for the conspiracy theorists to just like keep going down over and over again, and we'll never quite get to the bottom. And so part of the vampire trope that I was talking about from like the 90s until now, and like the cannibalism thing until now, part of that for me seems like it goes with the adrenochrome of it all.
Yeah, great point.
That like the more that the conspiracy has grown since the 90s, and like what we've known, like people that are out there that tell me that they've seen the fucking like Frazzle Drip video, like Frazzle Drip is not real. I know you haven't seen it. Like I posted about it the other day, all these people keep commenting that they've seen it and how terrible it is.
How many
No,
times did you imagine it in
haven't.
your mind, though? I haven't seen it either, but I used to imagine what was on it, like the skull and the
I used to imagine,
face and the
how
face.
could that be possible? How could they do it? How could they?
I would imagine it though. Like I would picture it. Like I would literally see like a filleted face. But that's
the
the
point.
job's been
That's the
done. The
inception.
job has been done.
That
It
is the meme
exists in
magic.
our mind. That gross, gross, gross image that doesn't even have to exist in reality now exists in the minds of these innocent little lambs. I shouldn't have been thinking about that shit. Like, and I didn't think, I thought I was legitimately thinking about it for good purposes because of saving the children, you know? And so I didn't realize how misguided. It's very misguided. I understand why we get ensnared into it because it's a brilliant trap, but it's misguided. And we're doing the job. We're doing the job. It just like, they just need the projector in our
We're
minds to be
rendering as we
projecting it.
go.
Yeah.
Just like you said. Shit, I just had something that you said and I wanted to say something on it. No. I don't know. I messed up. My bad.
I do like that we're exploring it all kind of goes together. The serial killer angle, the louche angle, just these stories, these traps, these loops, you know. And I was listening to some podcast about Jeffrey Dahmer earlier today just to kind of remind myself of some of these details to see what like people, you know, those little details that get passed along no matter what podcast you're listening to, they always harp on certain things. And one of the podcasts was mentioning frequently that he was like a copycat himself. A lot of his things that he did were done by a previous serial killer. So it was almost like that wasn't even, he wasn't even, you know, he was stealing from that. And there was something that he did in the Jeffrey Dahmer story that was basically taken straight out of the movie Seven. I mean, the movie Seven happened later, but like the movie Seven borrowed just whole swaths of these actions that Jeffrey Dahmer supposedly did. And so it's like, man, there really is nothing new. They're borrowing whole elements from other things and casting it as something novel, as something new.
Interesting too. The Jeffrey Dahmer on Netflix was produced and done by Ryan Murphy. Ryan
Oh, yeah.
Murphy also produced and does all these American Horror Stories.
Mhm.
I originally was just someone who liked that show before I got into all the things that we're into now, like season 1 Murder House.
Mhm.
But Ryan Murphy is very much like Hollywood elite, connected with all of the bad players, if you will, the bad actors. And if you watch American Horror Story with a wokeful eye, he is taking principles of conspiracy theories, the stuff that we talk about, and making it mainstream in a way. So the hotel one that's in California is essentially Hotel California. It has adrenochrome in it. It has Lady Gaga drinking white blood or white-haired children. It's about the hotel that was out there with all
I
the
forgot
different
about
stuff
her
that
cameo in that.
right.
Yeah.
And so again, like I go back to the vampire trope, the cannibalism trope, then like this whole conspiracy theory stuff with Hillary Clinton and filleting a girl's face and adrenochrome. And I just, all of that Pizzagate stuff, all of that to me seems so pretty packaged simulation that this is all coming up at the same time.
Right back to the scripted thing, like just too perfect. These rabbit holes are too like precise. These maps, these road maps are too perfect. And you go here, and then you go here, and you go here, and you go here, and you go here, and then you're lost, and you've gone in circles and circles, and you don't even realize it. And we've said this before, like there's no light found down these rabbit holes. It's just dark, farther and farther and farther away from the light, deeper and deeper you go. And ultimately, you know,
does it matter? Is anything that we talk about here gonna change?
Does it matter? I don't know, but it does feel much lighter and more joyful and better to be living in a world where I see that element as a falsification of reality, kind of hijacking our tendencies of being curious. And I just see it as a trap that I fell into. And I'm a little embarrassed that I fell into it for so long, but at least I can appreciate it now from the outside. I feel so much more joyful now than I did when I believed it was all true. And I believed in this deep, dark world, and I was trying to rescue the world. Now I just see that as a trap.
I'm grateful for the journey that like both you and I have taken, in the sense that like I don't know how it sharpened my tools of discernment, and I don't know how I could have gotten those same tools without those type of experience, like going down those rabbit holes and
Yeah,
starting at Q
exactly.
and all those type of, I don't know how else you get here and have these type of conversations. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful for it in a sense, but I also can take it now and I can put it in its own box and I can close the lid on the box when I want to. I'm getting to a point where, like, you and I are talking right now about all these thoughts and inception, and that you're manifesting them if you're thinking about them.
Mhm.
So, like, to the person who's listening, I'm at a point where if something comes up in my brain, like a bad thought, an intrusive thought, I literally say no.
Mm.
Like, just say no, and I push it away. And I'm getting to a point where I watch movies that I don't even want to watch the violence anymore. Like, I'm a big
Right.
person that watches the same things over and over again, and I like to have something on in the background. I don't even want to participate in that loosh in something that I know is
Yeah.
coming. So I was wondering if you felt the same way.
Yeah, I found as I grow older and I guess more awake and aware, I have so little taste for violence. I can't watch it. It made it very difficult to watch more of Westworld.
I haven't watched
The,
season 3
the
yet.
latest season, and it's just the gratuitous violence. There was also one season, I believe it was season 3, that was just basically all war. Season 2 and 3 were very violent. And same thing with Squid Game. Hard to watch. I watched 2.5 episodes, and it was just
I stopped
so
watching it too.
intensely, violently gross. Just I've used that word a lot, gross, because I think it's grotesque. We shouldn't be. It's kind of makes you wince just to take it in, and we actually there's a measurable an energetic spike, I think, when we kind of see these things. And I feel it. I just do not like to see that stuff. But also, I've never really liked seeing those videos, where people get hurt, like skateboard fails and stuff.
Oh, me either.
Some boys love that they love to watch those types of videos. I can't do it. I cannot watch other people get. And Game of Thrones, I never watched it because it's so violent. I don't know.
I'm happy to have this conversation with you because I've been meaning to have it with someone else, that I think you're more of like this like white light angel compared to like my darkness. So I don't necessarily like to watch things where people get hurt, but I feel like maybe I would watch something like more sinister than you movie wise, perhaps. I don't know. But
Yeah.
now I'm at a point where I literally I will close my eyes, avert my eyes. I will mute it. Like if somebody's getting killed on TV, like
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it.
Right. Even The Sopranos. I've been rewatching some Sopranos, and there's just some out of the blue. All of a sudden, someone will just get like shot in the head, and then blood goes everywhere, and it's quick, and it's kind of like nobody really thinks much of it in the show, and just kind of business as usual. But you just watch simulated death. I think there's some we're not supposed to see that. I
Okay.
don't think we're supposed to see
Yes.
that.
Back to that hypothetical where like we're the girl living in the forest with our family or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When do you ever see death other than like, if you lived in a town or outside of a town in like a normal setting these days, like, but for
Right.
what you might see on television, like when would you ever encounter something like dark and sinister and death like that?
Right.
Just in our face all the time.
I think that death and back to Disney. I really I'm hating on Disney, but who cares? They deserve it.
Hate it, baby.
Hate it, baby. But every single Disney movie they have dead parents. The protagonist has dead parents.
The orphan trope. There's so much
the
in
orphan thing. Yeah.
in children's books and movies. The orphan
Yep.
trope is such a prevalent
Strong
thing. That's interesting.
and really unnecessary. Why can't they be a princess who has a live parent, like Cinderella? That's the reason she lives with her evil stepmother because her mom died. Just all of them. Ariel, her mom died.
Does anybody have a nuclear family?
No, not one of them. I don't think there's one of them. Pinocchio, he's got that weird Geppetto guy,
Little
pedo.
Mermaid's missing her mother.
Yep.
Snow White has 7 small men that live with her.
Yep, but no parents in town. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very even the Frozen, the new generation, this new Frozen generation, they had the same thing. Their parents died in like some sled accident or something. I don't know. But just weird, there's something death. There's this goes straight to the serial killer element, because I don't think death is that common that they want us to think. People, even death in war, I question how many people have really died in these genuine, combat deaths. I think no, I think and how many people really exist. I don't think that as many people exist as they say, and I don't think as many people die as they say. I think that the system is much smaller and more acute than what they make us believe. But they need lots of deaths to support the 8 billion people. We need lots of overturn, death and birth, and lots of it to get to that 8 billion. Yeah.
Agreed. Completely agreed.
Yeah. How many people do you think there would be there could be?
Like if 8 billion people supposedly exist, I gotta say like 5%.
Yeah. Ooh, just like what they said with the bots on Twitter, 5%. Elon said it's 5%. I think like 95%.
Dead internet theory is very
That's
interesting.
great. Yeah, that's great.
I'm a big, I'm a simulation within a simulation kind of girl.
Yeah.
I think that NPC is both a state of mind and a possibility for actual, like, I think there are true non-player characters, and then I also think NPC is a state of mind that you and I can slip into in like a 3D versus 5D. Like I was an NPC until I woke up, or I can become NPC definitely at times. But do I think there are truly characters on scripts out there? Yes.
Right. They have no capability of doing anything off script.
And I think they're much more, I don't know, I think they're in our lives much more than we think.
I think so too. I think that there are some unreal ones out there, just kind of empty vessels that look real, sound real, appear real, but there's no light behind the eyes. There's nothing going on behind. There's no unique fire burning within. And again, I mean, we're electric beings. We're also these extraordinary machines. We're really complex computers. We're really complex bioorganic machinery, and all these like Boston Dynamics thing, even like Elon rolling out his new robot body and the Boston Dynamics coming out with robots and stuff. I think all that's psyops, because I think that we are robots.
Our robots. Consciousness has been downloaded into this meat suit.
Yeah, we're just meat suits driven by, and I mean, if you really look at our central nervous system, we're just these like
we look
snakes.
Like aliens.
We're like these little eyeball snakes, with our little
take the
snail
whole
tail, our little
neural skeleton.
Yeah, those 33 vertebrae.
Okay, this is a thought I wanted to give you quickly on aliens in general. This is something I have observed. We're on this like precipice of, I feel like, some sort of revelation from them, alien wise. Like we're just teetering on the edge. But then I look back within the last year and I see articles where they're making disclosures about aliens, about like
tons
different almost like factions that there could be up to like 3 different factions within our some sort of, like, they've said all this stuff, and I don't remember that stuff coming out in real time. I don't remember that. People like you and I would have responded.
That's intense. Like there's different like species of alien now. Like
they've referred to that, and like that the presence might be so close that something could happen. All this different stuff. And in the Project Bluebeam of it all, I wonder if they're planting in like dead internet theory, if they're planting articles that didn't actually come out in real time.
Oh yeah.
And so one day they can look back and they could say, look, we disclosed that they were within our universe.
Yeah.
Back in August or whatever. I don't know. I feel like me or Bledsoe or Nick or somebody would be within our little circle would have been talking about this stuff kind of within the last year. And I keep reading these articles on like, it's like the New York Post and shit like that.
It is fascinating, like the disclosures that come through main media when it comes to we had those sightings of the UFOs from from like airline and Navy pilots and stuff, and that was big last year. And I feel like
last year they came out and they were like, yes, aliens exist, and you just think about people like Bob Lazar and like all these characters that they created that like question the existence of aliens their whole lives, and now they're vindicated in some way.
Right. I'm suspicious of outer space, but I think alien meaning something just from beyond our observable realm. I'm down with that. I'm definitely down with that. But
See, I have trouble, and I'll ask you this, and then we can wrap up because I know you're getting tired. Okay, so if we live in a sim, this is a computer sim,
yeah.
and some sort of our consciousness exists outside the sim in some sort of way. So outside the sim,
Mhm.
are there aliens? But then also within the sim, are there aliens? You know, so like sometimes I wonder when like the government is talking about aliens, are we talking about ones that exist like within this timeline or
Right.
something that's almost like breaking the
And where are we
barrier?
defining like the barrier? Like it maybe alien, you know, because there's people that believe that our like if you're on flat Earth theory, and I don't believe I don't care what what the shape is. I think that it's applied physics no matter what, whatever physics we believe, like that gets rendered as the shape. But like there's people that have these models of flat Earth where it's our map, and then beyond that is like a whole
Like a
other
rim.
territory, and yeah, a whole other land, a rim of new lands. And sometimes I wonder if, you know, if what we understand is like outer space, space is such a nebulous word, space just meaning area beyond, you know, what if outer space is just farther land, like lands off territory that we haven't been, like part of the, you know, the video game element of it all, the Grand Theft Auto map that hasn't been rendered yet because we haven't gone that far in the game yet. And maybe like that's where maybe aliens aren't coming from space, they're just visiting from where we haven't reached yet within this space. It could be bigger than we know. I don't know. I wonder. I really wonder like what this is. If it's like a physical place or if it's just like a like a projection, a very hyper real sensory holographic projection that each of us are expressing in real time and experiencing to co creating and experiencing
Co-creating.
together. Yeah.
Mhm. I've got to do some more research. I know I've sent you a little bit on this before, and I've talked about it somewhat on my stories to the class, but I found this thing called like the Riemann Sphere that
Hmm.
talks essentially what you and I say, like that we're rendering as we go, and that
Ooh.
we're on the plane, and that the sphere and the flat, like it's all possible at one time, and that it's essentially like the plane exists because it's infinite.
Mhm.
I gotta. It's just hard to package that in a
It's
10
hard to even
slide.
imagine. Yeah, it's hard to kind of even like picture. Like there's not like a great visualization for that to even to like
Or and that like,
it's
is
hard
there
to
anyone
wrap your
that cares? You know,
right.
in the
Well,
sense that like
you know,
you and I
I
get
wonder.
so deep on shit, and then sometimes
I
I
know sometimes
wonder.
we get a little too deep, but that's great. It's great to question. We've got to question. What keeps us questioning is that it's impossible to know. It's impossible for me to reach up and measure the moon. Go measure the distance to the moon. It's impossible for me to go to space and check and really check for myself. And so I think because we are kind of imprisoned by what we are capable of observing, our observable vantage point is so limited. It gets really easy for them to lie to us, and we just have to believe it because
We can't
we
even
can't check
fathom.
it. We can't check it for ourselves. We can't fathom that they would lie to us about this stuff. Like that's the
Well, and
whole
we can't
notion of the big
fathom
lie. Yeah.
that. I think what even could exist. We're so limited by like just the
What
manner
they
of
fed
method that we.
us.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And we can't even say the word universe without picturing galactic outer space. Even though the word universe ultimately has nothing to do with outer space. Universe meaning a collective universe does
The
universe
universe
is
to me is always the sim, like
yeah,
this.
kind of like
It's
yeah.
never. It's never. If anyone's listening, I never mean it in a space way. I don't mean anything in a space way, but
Isn't that so interesting though? Like we can be meaning something totally different, but like
oh right.
because the word is yeah, because we're in the universe. I don't know. And that goes to the metaverse. Oh my gosh, I just love it so much. And what was it? I was reminded speak the left turn, but Zuckerberg, he did hear that like windsurfing video or like that electric surfboard video, and then Ivanka just had that video, and they
Oh
both
my
looked
god.
so fake.
Let's just say
So
I'm a
fake.
clumsy woman.
Mhm.
I just And so I used to date someone who had a boat, and he would try to get me. He would surf all the time like that, and I couldn't do shit. So it's difficult to get up.
She
Someone
had
with a
such
big ass.
ease. Ivanka
And
had such
she
ease.
was at such ease, and she was just smiling, you know,
Yeah.
and she was kind of like tiptoeing up a little bit with the
Right.
surfboard and like tiptoeing back. And
Right.
like I know for like my ex that did it, like once you're good, you're good. I get it. And I'm
Right.
sure she's a
She just looked like a Sims character
athletic
as well.
woman,
Like the
but she
skin
just
and
looked like
just
such a
looked
fucking
real
sim.
CGI. It looked odd. I think that goes back to Revelation. They're kind of revealing these methodologies. They can give us a digital version of a human, and many, if not most, won't think to question. But then there's going to be some that awaken to the fact that some of these images are fake, and then we look at it and we go, oh, that one is that one of those fake images? Because it's sure just pinging me as unreal. And then over time that'll get more and more easy to do, and it's more of a feeling than anything, and you'll just recognize what's real and what's not real so much more easily, and you won't get hoodwinked right and left because you'll have a radar for it and you'll be attuned to it. And just like that website, this person does not exist.com. Once when you the very first time you ever look at that website, you're going to think those faces are real. Everyone does. That's it's a good technology. But once you train your mind to really understand that they're not real, and once you look at it and keep looking at it and scrutinize, you'll be able to quickly see every time you refresh that image is not real. The face is not real. It's simply not real. And it'll stop looking real too. It really will. And then you won't even need to second guess yourself at all. You can just see immediately, oh, that's not a real face. And that's like, I don't know, our brains are like muscles as well. Like our senses are like muscles. Our gut intuition is like a muscle. If we don't use it, it'll atrophy and it'll go away. But if we do use it and listen to it, all these sensory experiences, uncanny valley, just our gut intuition, the whole gamut of gut intuitions, if we just trust that, it gets really strong. And I think that's like our best fight, our best weapon in this fight against unreality.
I'm just like thinking about all the things we've talked about tonight, in that our AI is likely so sophisticated. It's not likely. It is so sophisticated that it could take one of the 26 tropes we're talking about, and AI could write a script to a movie. And then we have technology now that we don't even need really real actors, because you can just sell your likeness and appropriateness like Bruce Willis.
Yeah. And the musical score can be like,
right. So you could essentially have a movie that's completely made by artificial intelligence
just from
now.
a screenplay, just from text on a screen, just from text on a page,
just from giving it a
and dialogue.
kernel. You could give it probably one line: boy meets girl in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And the
Give
AI, Tyler, could give us probably a movie within what, minutes?
Seconds. Yeah. There's
like does that movie exist? Like, have we seen that movie? Oh my god. That wasn't.
What if some of these, oh my gosh, it wouldn't surprise me at all if some, I wonder about that, the Shakespeare of it all, that writing, who sounds like that? That sounds like a computer. The Bible sounds like a computer.
The Bible, Jesus,
scripture. It's literally called scripture.
The Bible sounds so binary.
Yeah.
Read it with the lens of, this is binary and this is coming from artificial intelligence.
Yeah. It does not sound like a natural tongue. It sounds very unnatural and very like rule based.
Do you do you notice the like turn towards Christianity lately?
Yes, it was sudden, swift, and strong. Yeah.
And it's an interesting choice.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't get it. It seemed, I don't really understand it.
I think it's I find there to have been a hole in the market. I don't know if you ever, that Unbearable Deplorable character, she was a big like Christian account, and then she went down. She was one of the people involved in the back end on my doxing. She used to be my friend, but she went down. And then I find that there was a hole in the market for that type of rhetoric. And then people saw that opportunity. For that. But it's I don't know, it's an interesting move.
It's a fire, the direction of it too is like very fire and brimstone, I've noticed. Like the Satans are rapping at your window.
It's satanic.
It's like everything is just Satan, 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 Satan this, Satan that. Satan's coming to snatch your soul. I don't know. I just don't even like talking about that stuff. But I guess, that's the genius, and that's the if you really practice these religions and you really get into it, they're kind of dark. They're kind of dark, and you start to read the scripture, and there's some weird, some dark, and there's some real, script. There's the script, damn. There's some real, the casting, there's a lot of death. There's honor, this honor and sacrifice. Yes, back to the sacrifice thing, and there's a lot of weird shit in the Bible. It's like I have just found the strangest thing about Christianity is the ability to pick and choose, and to have rules for thee but not for me. People have,
it's very much like a condemning place at this time, and I find that the people that have shifted into that role to be very condemning lately.
Yeah. I don't like to think in those terms. I the condemning.
At the end of the day, I don't give a fuck about what you
Save yourself.
or what you're doing.
You gotta just have peace with your path. Peace with your path, and we're all gonna have a different path. And my path may not make sense to the person next to me, but it's for me, and it's my journey. It's my very individual journey. And that's the big psyop too, is we all have the same, you have to do this version of the journey to be successful, or this version of the journey to be successful, and you have to walk in this person's footsteps. It's literally the language.
The same version.
Walk in the footsteps of, like, they literally use it. Like, no, I don't want to do that path. You really have to cut your own path through the field. You've got to, through the forest. Yeah.
I like that. I'm doing this thing now. I can't remember if we've done this together or not, but when I say, if you make it to like this part of the podcast, you are an elite member of the class.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so to show your solidarity and to like show me and you that they've listened to it, I'll ask you to pick an emoji, and then people who listen to this will comment that emoji on like Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that.
Ooh, I like that.
So what emoji would you like?
Something, let's do like the purple umbrella.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Fun.
Purple umbrella. Put it, obviously I like it when you send it to me in a DM, but I like it the most when you put somewhere public. Yeah. So if you're listening to this episode,
purple, obviously it's purple, but then umbrella, because the two reasons. Umbra is the darkest portion of a shadow. Umbra is the darkest portion of a shadow, and like when you're looking at the physics of light and shadow, I think like shadow play is ultimately how this all works. Like shadow play being, evil. What we're just talking about, Satan. I think it's ultimately just deception, and Lucifer, being a word for Satan, meaning light bringer of light. And if you look at the physical properties of light and shadow play, and umbra is like the darkest portion of this interplay between light and blocking of light, shadow work. And it's so interesting. Yeah. So the purple umbrella.
Perfect. Where can everyone find you?
Oh, I'm at Human Vibration on Twitter, and on Instagram, I'm at Human Vibration _Insta. And then on Realize Radio on all major platforms, have episodes available for free on all major platforms, Realize Radio. And then also on Patreon, continues content on Patreon, Realize Radio. Those are all my spots. I
would love for you to talk about like what the members of your Patreon have been doing lately. I've been watching. I think it's been great.
Oh yeah, we've got a really cool program. So one of the kind of things about Patreon is it's just subscriber based, and we do have a paywall. $8.88 has been, the entry in, and then we've got this other level called Gratitude Attitude, where it's $33.33. And that was really originally just started to be just a show of, hey, we really like your work. Here's we're for 1 month or extended time, I'm going to support, what you're doing with this gesture. And then someone that was at that level, they had just joined at $33.33 up from $8, and they upgraded because they wanted to be able to sponsor people within the community that were having hard times, that were going through, when we were having a lot of inflation, is when gas prices were like $7, and we were having like all these conversations within the community about what we could do to make it, some people were really struggling, and this month they maybe didn't have $8.88. Sometimes life really kicks you in the butt. And so it started from within. This with one member, his name's Jake, he actually planted the seed of like, hey, I'm going to step up so that I can like make room for a couple of people at the bottom. And I thought that was a really cool idea. And so we've kind of expanded that idea, and we've created a new level for $1 you can get in. And so we have like more people joining the 33 to sponsor like these new spots at this $1 level. And it's a place, so if you've been in the community and it's a way to get into the community without a huge buy-in. You can spend $1 and see if you like it, and if it's something that you really like for a couple of months, then maybe you want to join, and it's like your entry in without having to like go jump all the way in. Or if you've been a part of the community for a while and you want to take a break for whatever reason, financial or whatever, otherwise, you can just go down to that level, and it's kind of a respite. You don't, because everybody month's different, and everybody's different. Everybody's financial situation is different. Anyway, so I just didn't want people dropping off only because their financial situation had changed. I didn't want that to be the only reason someone couldn't be a part of the community, or the only reason someone couldn't get in, because a lot of people said it's just too much. Like, I don't know if I like it. Why would I pay this money up front? I don't even know if I like it. So this is a way for you to experience the community. And we'll open up another, I opened up I think 40 spaces, and it was 47 people that got in on that level. Yes, 47 exactly. I did not plan for that, because some people that were already in changed it down. We ended up kind of losing money on it.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
But it's okay. It already balanced out. Like the initial push, we lost money, but since it's been within the community, and like we've kind of seen it all shaked out. Some other people have upgraded it, so it came out in the wash, and it's like actually perfect. It's exactly what it proved. The concept proved to work. So I really like it. And it was kind of a fun experiment. And who knows what we're doing? I mean, it's still so small. Like, who knows what's really going on with how like to organically grow a good thing without anybody feeling like they're paying. Because some people in the middle now are like, hey, I wish I was only paying $1, and they signed up, and so I can understand how whenever you do anything monetarily, some people are going to feel a certain way, because money is so ingrained in us. We have certain feelings about it. We feel taken advantage of very easily, depending on how you're raised, or you feel like squeezed very easily, depending on how you're raised. Same thing. I mean, trigger. So we're just trying. I don't know. It's just a weird thing.
Well, I thought it was a beautiful exercise for those who couldn't afford it.
Yeah, I think so too. And we had multiple people reach out within the community and say that they were like, hey, can I qualify for this? And it's for everybody. So like some people, yeah, it worked out great. And I don't think anybody's taking advantage of it. I don't think anybody. Yeah, I think it's perfect.
What kind of content do you put on the Patreon?
Me and Rambo do regular episodes once a week. We do like an hour plus, just kind of catching up on whatever's currently. Usually it's kind of topical in that way. Like we talk about a lot of stuff that's going on in the news, but really kind of focusing on some of the things that we've always really our hallmarks of everything being fake. The things, the Queen being one of our Queen, COVID. All this to sports. He focuses a lot on sports. He's gotten into numbers a lot lately too, but we just have a show where we kind of spitball about what's going on in the news currently, and then what's just catching our fascination, and some listener submission questions and stuff. And then throughout the week, we'll have some guest episodes, and I'll do some solo recordings just on whatever is on my mind. I've been starting to do more and more of those lately. So there's a fair amount of content per week. There's like a few posts a few hours of content per week. But we only call it an episode if it's me and Rambo and it's over an hour. Anything other than that, it's called something else. So it's fun. Like, we have a ton of content, like hours and hours and hours.
Money's worth for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
The brightest mind that I know.
Oh, it's fun to just do it. Just do it. And that you're experiencing that. I mean, it comes out of you. Like, you can't not do this.
Oh, right. And even when I'm not doing it, I want to be doing it. And like the periods of darkness I've had over the last year, it's just, it's like bubbling up.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to like convey it sometimes. And so you know, you and I are working all the time on how do we get this to the person who wants to see it,
Right.
and who is that person and what do they want to see,
and how do we do this independently? Like, how do you grow something?
How do you do this independently and have a full-time job and
right
exist, and then you ask for money and people get fucking upset about it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thing.
And it's a minefield. It's a minefield even to have a Patreon. It's a minefield, and even when we're trying these grand experiments, there's some people that are feeling somehow diminished by it and from it. And so it's like, you can't please, it's a tough one. You can't please everyone all the time. No.
At the end of the day, your time is worth something. And
yeah, and that's a beautiful thing too. I think that there's going to be a new economy based on our energy. And we've already been primed for this, because ultimately, guys, the reason Facebook is free, the reason Instagram is free, is because it's our energy that's powering it. It's our energy. So we already know fundamentally our energy attention is so valuable. And yeah, I think that's gonna, yeah. And by choosing to support and put this currency towards something that you like participate in, and like I don't know, you really directly, because I'll spend, sometimes I spent the other day, like $14 on a salad, and it's lunch, and then you're out the door for like $20 especially if you've got a drink, and then the tip, now you can't not tip anymore on these electronic signature pads.
I don't tip.
It was highway robbery. It was highway robbery. It was but then it's like, wow, I just burned $20, and I'm not going to remember this at all. I could, for less than, half of that, less than half of that, I could support something for an entire month, and I do get daily, like I can interact with it on the reg and on the regularly, and get, it's not just one tapped in experience, it's a whole thing. It's a lot of experiential stuff. And I think that people are finding value in that. And there's going to be a new economy. I know it. I just know it. There's going to be a new way for us to monetize for what we're doing, and it not to be seen in a negative light.
Agreed.
I mean, influencers
make money off just suggestions of purchases, right. But goddamn if a fucking anon asks you to support them.
I don't understand how one is normalized and the other is not. It's a whole psychology. I can't explain it, but like, for some reason we've been able to say it's totally normal for and these unwrapping YouTube videos, like those kids that get paid millions of dollars to unwrap. And it's like, we're cool with that. And we think that's value and that's worth. But you and I, we're doing something really renegade. We're doing something that's really unique. These it's never been done before. Some of these terrains that we're exploring, and it's new, and it's something that's it's proprietary. It's deep proprietary information and data, and it really can only come from, you can only do what you do. I can only do what I do. And it's pretty incredible, the fingerprint that gets put on these things. And I think that there's value there, and but yet we don't want to monetarily pay for that. I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird, and I don't understand it, but I do observe it, and it's weird. What cash gets thrown around at certain things, the payment, and these people that make millions of dollars per episodes, these celebrities, it's just like, I think about, sometimes the money just boggles my mind, and it's like
sports too. Jesus.
Sports, yes, and we've normalized it, but then we, I don't know, but then what? Yeah, but then
it's strange.
It's strange. I don't have words for it. It's a strange place to be in. But I'm proud of what we're doing. I'm proud of you. I'm very proud of your tenaciousness, and you've got an amazing brain, an amazing booty. And but yeah,
I'm proud of us for putting our faces out here, because
I know, it's a crazy when I first met you, we were anons. We were two little anons, weren't we?
I miss those days a little bit.
I kind of miss those days too. Yeah. Ooh. Whoopsie.
Trying to figure out how to package stuff now with a
Genie is out of the bottle. Cat's out of the bag. Yeah. Wasn't me. This is a deep fake all along.
Yeah, how do I get that technology?
Right. Yeah. Seriously.
Oh man. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me
This
tonight.
was wonderful. We need to do catch up more regularly.
For
Yeah,
sure.
for
Now
sure.
that I have my shit together, I think we'll be doing that.
I'm glad you're back.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're back and putting your energy out there. And I've enjoyed all the stuff you've done with Cheney. You guys have your live stuff. You guys are experimenting more. That's good. Like try different ways of doing this because it's the things that feel right are gonna just flow out naturally. And you
Well,
guys
I'm
already have
about
a
to
great repertoire.
experience. I'm gonna try to experiment with the YouTube or yeah, the YouTube monetization.
Yeah.
So you have to have at least 1,000 followers. You have to
Okay.
have 4,000 hours of public viewing,
Oh wow. Okay.
and then you qualify for
You'll get that quick. You'll get
monetization.
that
So I'm at
easy.
like 3,200 hours right now.
Okay. Yeah, you're almost there.
So maybe this episode will put us over the map.
Yeah.
But I just even want to be transparent and just talk about like what does that look like? Because
monetization.
the influencers don't do that.
Well, I just got who knows because once you get flagged for something, they take away your monetization ability. I got flagged on Insta. Not that I was
Right,
making
Maria right now is back on people's algorithms, and so I have to be such a good girl
right, right. You
because
do.
I've been banned for like 6 months on that account.
Yeah, they and they just opened you back up just
Yeah, just
recently. Yeah.
randomly. It's wild.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you getting opened back up. But yeah, they're swift and they're punitive.
Oh
Insta.
yeah.
Yeah, they'll just kick you out. And they don't explain anything. And you ask for a review and they're just like, we
Well,
reviewed
because
it.
the they is an AI.
Yeah,
The thing
they're
about the slaps on the hands that we're getting, because like HV and I will log onto our Instagram right now, and it might go back and say that we've got our hand slapped for something that we posted like 8 months ago. And
Mhm.
so I think the AI is just going through every
Oh
single post
wow.
and looking for flags.
And then maybe every time, the AI does a new sweep on the same old material, old and new,
Mhm.
when it gets
And they just
updated
flag
with
you
new
on
things
something
to look
else.
for. The AI is like sometimes I think like, well, we just goes back to the human. Well, we will end it, but you're so fascinating to talk to you. But like, I think about like parking attendants and stuff, people that are just looking for vehicles they're only like zeroing in on vehicles with expired registrations and stuff. It's almost like a human, they're just looking for things to flag. All kind of humanity and circumstance goes out the window. They're only looking for like one
It's
little
like they're going back
element.
to the code, I think, and they add another word. Okay, you know what? Trump this or this, they're adding another word, and then it does a whole nother sweep, and
Yeah.
it pings all the way down and then puts another
Yeah.
like there's no review process with Instagram. There's no review, like you can't contact anyone for some sort of appeal
Right.
because the anyone
That's
is
frustrating. The
the
robot
AI,
AI. Yeah,
and
that's
they're not going to
frustrating
go
about it.
back and say like,
There's no
like
helpline.
I talked to somebody about Sam Tripoli paid someone basically to get his account back. And
Hmm.
so he gave me their contact information, and I did contact them about my original Maria account and getting that back. And they told me, of course, they could do that for $4,000. And I considered it, but I was just like, you can't guarantee me that like this isn't going to go away again.
Right. And then I've spent
And
all this
at the end of
money.
the day, like,
Yeah.
you guys are just pulling this out. Like the AI, like you're not going to be able to update the AI and be like, never remove mymaria777 again.
Right. Right.
So
They can
it's
just
just,
hmm.
and so now there's a whole business of like Facebook people moonlighting on the side, getting you your account back, only
Wow.
for it to, and then Sam lost his account again last week or something like that. So now I'm happy I didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
But then you think, okay, what if I do pay for that and that account had 55,000 followers or something like that, and I could monetize it in some way and it would pay for itself back, and that would make
Right.
sense. And then you
Yeah. Because
try
if
to
you
monetize something and you get butchered by people who don't even follow you, and you're just like, well, fuck my life, I'll never do this again.
and then it's always like right when you're about to be able to cash out on the monetization that they just strike you down. Like they
Every
let
time
you
I'm
build it
about to
up.
do merch, every
Yeah.
single fucking time I get all this stuff planned and I'm about to do it, and the AI, it's like
You got to
the
get those hats
Tyler's
back.
reading my brain,
You've got to
and
get the PSYOP hats back because I want a
I
new
know.
one for sure.
I'm gonna send you one. Remind me. Send me
Every
your address.
single time, yeah, I'll send you my address. Every time I wore that hat, though, every single time, people were like, "Where'd you get that?" And I was like, "This is my Maria merch. You know, I don't. You got to ask her. Like, and then I remember asking you if it was available. You're like, "No, I'm not selling it right now." And it's like people are asking. Like, I'm getting hundreds of people asking about this hat. I wish I was selling it. I wish I was selling this hat. And I was like,
I gotta do it.
Yeah.
It's just, but that's a whole nother weird part of this process for me where it's like, I don't know.
Right. Because
I don't care what people think about, but then I have to care what people think about in the sense of just being a content creator. I don't know. It's a weird place.
It's a lot of work too, getting merch out. Anyway, it's a hard biz. People are like, shut up. I don't know. There's a lot. I admire. There are so many hardworking podcasters. And you just mentioned Sam Tripoli. He's got how many podcasts? A million gazillion podcasts. I
don't know how that guy ever
so sleeps. Hardworking. He's a hardworking. And he tours comedy wise. Like shit. Like that's a lot of work. That's a lot
of work that I don't want to do.
He's putting in the hours. So many shows. So many. Maybe he's AI'd his voice. So maybe he's AI'd his voice.
Is Sam Tripoli the next Bruce Willis?
Maybe. Yeah. That's funny.
Okay, let's get together soon. I love you.
All right. Love you too.
Thanks, guys.